Next, we have another lecture by Dr. Pankaj Bisha, Head of the Department Community Medicine, SRMC. His talk is going to be on publication ethics. Sir, we welcome you to share your lecture.
Thank you very much. Can you just allow me to share my PPT through my desktop, which is with the name Pankaj? I'm using my mobile phone.
Sir.
No, ma'am.
Sir, okay, I'll change that into presenter, sir, Pankaj.
Yes, madam.
Okay.
Yes, now I can share. Just please confirm if I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you are very much audible.
Okay. Now, as you know, this course is going on since last so many days continuously. Everybody must be tired and waiting for the validity program when this fellow finishes, so that the next program can be started. Like last time, I don't want to take too much. As sir was telling in the beginning, research ethics, there are so many topics which can go for hours together and hours together. And there are so many courses. The similar way, publication ethics is a big thing. And with the disclaimer that within 30, 40, 50 minutes or 1 hour is very difficult to cover all the aspects of the publication ethics. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take few of the important things, which as a researcher, which as a postgraduate student, which as a faculty as a guide, which as a head of the department, which as a dean of the institution, dean research and higher authorities involved, I should be basically aware. So in general, I'm going to talk on the common issues. Some of the issues are easy to solve. Some of the issues are very difficult to solve, and some of the issues will be never solved, in spite of the session getting finished somewhere at around 4 o'clock. I'll start. There was a discussion going on about the research ethics and the difficulties which we found. Now, today in majority of India and so many other countries in the world, lockdown is going on. In spite of the lockdown going on, as a person who is surviving in that civil society should know about the rules and regulation of the lockdown. I cannot walk in and walk out in any of the area where the lockdown is there and I'm not permitted. Just by ignorance, I cannot get away with the rules and regulations. Same way, if I'm ignorant, I cannot get away saying the same thing to ethics committee or research ethics committee or any publication oversight committee. Now a trend has come where the publication are also being oversighted by different form of the committees as required. Like last time, I will concentrate only on my one slide and I'll take each word of my one slide in a great detail so that we can finish in the reasonable time. Now, when it comes to publication ethics, it involves three important aspects for the publication. One, certain things which we need to be careful before I start writing my publication. Certain things I need to be careful while I am doing my publication, writing my manuscript, submitting to a publication journal, submitting and getting reviewed, etc., etc., etc. And third thing, I need to be very careful after the article get published. That's not the end of it, but the post-publication aspect. There are n number of other issues which revolves around the publication ethics and probably will be very difficult to cover in very, very shorter aspect. Now, before publication, what are the simple issues for publication ethics with respect to I need to think of before publication? As a researcher, when I'm thinking about some study, actually my research ethics starts from the day of my thinking of the study and will go on till the final product comes into the market, either in the form of a publication, in the form of a patent, or in the form of a public health benefit, or in the form of commercialization on any other form, best form possible. And hence my thinking of publication should start, because as it was discussed, even if it's a negative study, it has to be published so that other set of people do not go through the same kind of experimentation or study which can be avoided by different researchers. And that's why by not publishing a study is literally in a general meaning can be considered as a crime. And that's why any study which is planned have to be published in some other form, probable in a big form, in a full text article, or it can be a simple letter to study also, or it can be in whichever best form. And we need to understand there are studies who publish negative studies, and they're with the title with Journal of Negative Studies by BMC and so many other groups are there. So most important, we need to start thinking about publication at the time of starting the study. And that's why we need to take ethics committee approval before we start the study. because many times authors land up in problems at the time of publication. They send the article to the journal and journal asks for the scanned copy of ethics committee letter, and they realize that they have not taken the ethics committee approval. And that's why before we start the study, we need to make sure ethics committee approval is obtained. Last time I brought that issue, today again I will bring that issue. Anytime any oral presentation planned in the conference or a poster presentation planned in the conference, the ethics committee approval has to be obtained before oral and poster presentation, and not after oral and poster presentation is over and when I am writing my publication. It has to be done at the planning of methodology, at the planning of aim and objectives, at the planning of doing oral and poster presentation. But unfortunately, many postgraduates, many faculty feels that whenever I am going for publication, that only the time when I need ethics committee approval. Hence, my sincere request is please make sure you plan your ethics committee approval before even oral and poster presentation you are planning to do. Nowadays, there is a lot of restriction because of the COVID, and because of that restriction, we are not moving out of our state. But earlier, a lot of conferences were happening, and announcement of those conferences used to happen at least 1 year in advance. And so that postgraduates and faculty can plan in a very nice way. And all of us know how we used to plan in a pre-COVID area about conferences. We used to look at a so-called the place where it is being conducted. If the city, which is I have not visited or my family member have not visited, that was the first point to look for going for the conferences, and then the academic component was equally important. So we need to be very sure in the pre-COVID era we could have identified all those issues of the of those publication and other things. But now, though it is an online presentation, online conferences, the time period is very, very short. We have to make sure before our oral or poster presentation, ethics committee approval is obtained, so that we don't land up at the time of publication when the journal asks for ethics committee approval, and retrospectively, ethics committee cannot give approval for a study which is orally presented or a poster presentation or done some kind of thing is that. Now, when I'm planning before publication, I have to prepare a research team which is going to be with me, not during the research, also during publication time. And this research team is very, very important. And for that, we need to prepare some kind of a ground rules. The ground rules are very, very simple and common sense. Each and every member of the team has to bring some contribution to my research. Only because they are at certain positions, they need not be a guest author or a guest investigator for the team. And that's why the ground rules are very, very important. How this research team is constituted, how each and every member of the research team is going to be part of the investigator team, and how they are going to be also contributing in the publication. Many times we have seen that in the time of the research team, all the members are there, but at the time of publication, people forget about some of the members, and the publication happens without those members. In such cases, we can lead to some kind of integrity issue, and those people who are left out may try to give a problem later on in the form of writing it to your institution, your department, or maybe writing to the journal, and all kind of problem can occur. And that's why the best ground rule is create your research team in advance at the time of thinking of the study, and also prepare the ground rules with respect to authorship. Many times people feel it is too early to decide about the authorship just before the study. But if you ask my personal opinion, I'll be very happy to decide my team, where each and every member comes with some kind of a important aspect for the research, and we also decide who will be the first author or the last author or the corresponding author in each and every paper. And so that in the beginning, before the study is started, everybody comes to the ground rules, saying that which are the papers, who will be the first author, second author, or the corresponding author, so that issues do not come. It may not be very difficult for a postgraduate where PG is doing the study and is guided by the university appointed guide. But in case of multi-research team, which is done usually at the faculty level, where there can be 3 members, there can be 5 members. Some people may be waiting for promotion, some people may not be waiting for promotion. Some people want to send the publication to an easy journal, some people want to send it to a difficult journal, or some people want to send an open access journal which is predatory in nature and money minded. There are so many issues which may come up later on, and all those issues is before sorted out before publication, that is at the time of studies, in the form of a ground rules. If suppose I have 5 people in the research team, I'll make sure as per the scientific requirement of the study, I'll make sure at least the 5 papers can come out, where each person can be a first author and corresponding author, so that everybody's needs are also satisfied and the scientific component is also satisfied. Each and every member brings some important issues for the research in that particular aspect. So solving this major mystery, which may land up problem later on at the time of publication once the study is over, or once everybody hearts at that point of time, is very, very important. And in this ground rule, when we are planning, the most important thing is planning for acknowledgement. Sometimes people want to acknowledge somebody, but the person who is going to be acknowledged wants to be author. And these kind of things will come up later on in life. And that's why we have to decide who will be the first author, who will be corresponding author, and how each and every member scientifically gets all these aspects in a bigger study, and the person who is going to be getting acknowledgement remains as an acknowledgement and doesn't try to look for the authorship at a later on. And also we need to decide how over the period of time, next 1 year or 2 years, this publication will be sent to which journal and all kind of things. Because certain people after 2 years, maybe at the time at the verge of promotion, they need urgent article, while the other authors do not need any urgent article for their promotion because they are already promoted or they are not immediately verge of promotion. And these kind of things will come up, and that's why these ground rules needs to be very much prepared well in advance before publication, so that each and every author, each and every contributor of the team is satisfied with the ground rule and accept those things. The problem arises when there are multi-department study, if the multi-center study, and all these ground rules have to be clearly defined. If it's a clinical trial funded, those kind of agreements and MOUs or the clinical trial agreement has to be done with the CRO or the sponsoring agency, and those things comes. Though I am talking only on the publication ethics, the another output of the publication is also patent and commercialization, and those things are also have to be clearly described and defined before we start our research. And that's why these are the major chunk of important things we need to take care of before publication. And that's why once we have sailed through before publication issues very well, the during publication and the post publication life will be very, very easy. If we do not spend enough time on discussing these important ground rules and aspects, then our life during publication and post publication is going to be difficult. At times I have seen the researcher who says that I don't want to publish the study because all these complications are coming for the authorship, for copyright, for commercialization, for patent. Is better not to publish, and I will leave this study. And that is going to be really difficult task. And that's why these ground rules, even if it takes more time, it's better to sort out all these issues to everybody's satisfaction, and if possible, be better documented in the form of some kind of agreement or the written document. Then next important aspect, it comes, IEC approval is obtained, study is over, and people want to start writing their manuscript. When people start writing their manuscript, the important aspect is the author. Now here authors will not change much if your publication aspects is done well, where who will be the first author, who will be corresponding author, and other levels of author is already pre-planned. And here, as I told you, if I have 5 authors, I should make sure at least 5 good scientific studies are, or the publications come out, so that each author has an equal chance of getting first authorship as well as the corresponding authorship. The problem comes here while writing the author, who will be writing what content of the paper. If you go through the 2013 guidelines of the International Editorial Board, it says very clearly, each and every author is equally responsible for the content of the article. It should not happen that, okay, I have written only this paragraph, I am responsible for only this paragraph. As an author, and all the authors are equally responsible for the complete study. And that's why, along with the authorship, the first author writes the paper, corresponding author also sees the paper. These are the 2 main authors who write each and every paper, and other members contribute as and when required for the finalization of documentation. That means I have 5 members in the research team, and in the pre-publication aspect, I have decided those 5 members, how they will be the first author and corresponding on which paper. Accordingly, those 5 papers will be written during publication aspects, where each article, first author and corresponding author mainly write the article, and other authors take part, so that each and every author will be writing some other paper as a first author and corresponding author and do it. The problem comes when the first author doesn't write. Whenever the corresponding author doesn't write and other authors are made to write because they are junior or because they have a less say in some kind of a hierarchy, then the problem starts and unethical practices starts. And that's why, again, the best practice during publication is, as decided during the pre-publication phase, the first author and the corresponding author starts writing. Mainly the first author writes the larger content, then corresponding authors improves the thing, and then it is circulated to other authors. Many times it happens that corresponding author is not willing to correspond, and only the name is written for the dummy sake. That kind of unethical practices also should be avoided. And that's why we have to be very clear the who is the corresponding author. Now, many times people misunderstand what is the meaning of corresponding author. Corresponding author has a major, larger role in the publication, because the corresponding author is the main person who corresponds with the journal, corresponds with the journal with respect to submission, corresponds with respect to the any query or any reviewer comments comes, submission of this reviewing, and finally, if any query comes later on in the post publication, the corresponding author is the mainly responsible. And that's why corresponding author has to take a larger responsibility for corresponding, as well as become a guarantor. I'm again repeating the word, the guarantor of the whole study, though each and every author is equally responsible for the study. And that's why we have to be very, very careful with all these aspects, and corresponding author has to correspond. And many times we have seen the practice where corresponding author gives the email ID and other things to other people and they correspond. Is not the right ethical practice should happen. And that's why, again, I repeat, if pre-publication at the time of studies, all those issues are very much clarified and decided, then those complications of writing, first author, corresponding author, and the other team members will never come up, and the publication will go through the simple way. One of the important aspects which comes when we write the article is a plagiarism. Now, there are n number of plagiarism types are described, and UGC has come out with a different guidelines with the plagiarism, and that's why I will take you to the UGC guideline, which you can probably read in the great detail. The guideline title says University Grant Commission's Regulations on Promotion of Academic Integrity, Prevention of Plagiarism in Higher Educational Institution Regulations of 2018, which got gazetted on 23rd July 2018. If you read this guideline, it talks about various kind of academic integrity, academic honesty, and what is the meaning of plagiarism, etc., and how the plagiarism can be found out, how higher education institutions can work, and what are the duties of higher education, how to create the awareness program and the training with the plagiarism. And it doesn't apply only to the faculty or postgraduate, it also applies to undergraduate studies, postgraduate, and all kind of research work, and which is going to be published. And that's why taking care of plagiarism is very, very important. And nowadays, before Google, it would have been probably difficult to find out the plagiarism. Now, with the help of Google search, you just write 4 lines, you can easily identify from where the content is taken. Many times, unfortunately, our newer generation of students have a very poor English, some of them at least. And when you read the article, you will realize that when the paragraph is written very fantastically, and after that you see 2 or 3 lines which are written poorly, and again there is one fantastic paragraph, you can easily identify that those 2 paragraphs which are written by fantastically are not written by my postgraduates or by the faculty, but it's done cut, copy, paste from somewhere. Many times when people plagiarize and do cut, copy, paste, the synergy of thinking, the synergy of the theme may not occur, and it can be easily identified. All the universities have to have something called as plagiarism software. Authenticate is one of the plagiarism best software which is available, but also very, very costly, may not be possible for all the organization. And that's why there is a possibility of with UGC, improved software is available, which is provided through UGC, and also it gives a level of similarity or the plagiarism level, and those similarity can be decided. And also it talks about how department level integrity panel can be there, and how actions can be taken with respect to stopping the publication, stopping the promotion, stopping the all kinds of examinership, and so on. And there are so many details are there. I will concentrate slightly here on the percentage. Now we need to understand, though percentage of similarities is important. Now how the similarity is assessed. Suppose I have a software in my university, I will write my manuscript, and that manuscript will be submitted and subjected to that software. After a day or so, or maybe within 1 hour or 2 hours, the software will give me a color-coded word where it looks a similar sentences which are written and published in the public domain and other journals available on the internet. And it compares and gives a color. And with the color, we can identify how much material is copied, how much material is not copied. And that's why the basic rule to avoid all kind of plagiarism is write in your own words. And writing your own words is very, very important. And when we write in our own words, chances of plagiarism are going to be very, very less, because it's not a copied material. And also percentage will tell you. Many times people feel that percentage of less than 10% is very good enough, as the guideline has given in anything, probably 9% or 8% or 2% is good enough. It's not like that. Even 1%. Important aspect which is plagiarized or copied, it plays very, very important role. Say, for example, there is one article where I am writing about the Newton's third law, and I say Newton's third law is devised by me. It is only a 1% plagiarism, but it is a very, very serious criminal activity, even the lesser percentage. And that's why we need to be very, very careful with not only the number or the percentage or the amount, 10% or 5% or, but also what is copied is also very, very important. Take another example. The ethics committee approval is obtained for doing the study. Now, this is the one way which statement which many people are going to write. I don't know what are the different ways by which you can rewrite or rephrase this statement. The ethics committee approval is obtained, and this should not be considered as plagiarized, though it is going to be shown as copied word from multiple places. So software is going to give only a software report, and behind that software, the intelligent mind has to work, not only merely talking about the percentage, but also the component what is appears similar. So even if it is less than 10%, we need to be very, very careful, and also think which is appears to be copied needs to be taken care. And in this way, so far I have asked for 2 questions in the post-test and the pre-test. Post-test already you have filled up according to my knowledge, but even if you have filled up, at least your knowledge can increase now. The first question was ethics committee approval to be obtained before oral and poster presentation. Answer is yes or the true. And second question was mere similarity percentage, a 10% less or some selected value is good enough, and below that everything is okay. The answer is false. If you see this guideline where it says 10% is level 0, no penalty. But even if it is a 9%, even if it's a 1%, but telling that the Newton's law is written by me, it is a plagiarized content, and we need to be very, very careful. So merely the number or the percentage may not play a role. Even what content is given and appears to be copied is very, very important. And now with the simple Google search or plagiarism identification software, we can find out. Now the question comes, what happens if my university doesn't have a software? There are free softwares that are available, but unfortunately, please do not use those free softwares. Because as a researcher, I know what material is copied and what is not copied. There is no need to check in the software. But all we need to understand, when we try to search on the online free softwares, many times this online free software stores the content. And when they store the content, what will happen? When the university checks the plagiarism content or the journal wants to check, it will look like it is a copied material. Actually, it is not a copied material. You just check yourself in a free online software which is available on internet, and that free online software stored the thing. And that's why the third important take-home message which I need to understand with the plagiarism is I should avoid checking the plagiarism in a freely available software in the online. If I have in the university, well and good. If I have co-authors in those co-authors university is there, please find out. And the best judge for plagiarism is myself, because I have written the whole article and I can be very, very careful. The question comes where I am not sure about the plagiarism when I have taken some content from somebody else. The citation of that article is the most important, and writing those statements in the inverted commas is the again best practices, where you can say very clearly this wording or this definition or this methodology I have not copied from anywhere, but it has come from a different article. Now many times when we do a lab experiment or some kind of a methodology, methods may remain the same, and those methods are described by somebody else. I'm not going to write those methodology in detail. I'll probably say this is a methodology of doing a gram staining or AFB staining, and the Newton methodology is applied there, or I can write few lines of that methodology and give the citation. And that's why giving the respect to the person who has originated by giving citation or by quoting that person, by giving the inverted commas and then citation, is really best practice which is required for the plagiarism. And also we need to understand these softwares are very, very smart. They assess the plagiarism by different way. They take the whole article with references. They will take whole article without references. They will take whole article without methodology. Only results will be compared. Introduction will be compared. Many times methodology has a similar content. Now say for example, any experiment or any lab, which the standard practice is like this, I don't think so there is any other way you can rewrite the whole practice. And that's why those components can be similar. And that's why many of these plagiarism software at advanced level avoid this methodology combining, and they look at various permutation combination to see if the content is plagiarized or not plagiarized. And that's why we need to be very, very careful. And citation and writing in your own words is one of the best way to come to those aspects. Second important issue comes when we plagiarism. Plagiarism is a self-plagiarism. People keep on writing same thing again and again, and UGC come out as a one simple note on what is the meaning of plagiarism, and they talk about what is the meaning of test cycle by multiple doing publication. One simple issue, you multiply in 5 articles and write it, or you keep on writing same thing again and again with minor changes and claim as a free and fresh new article and new study, or you just write somebody else's word in the own way. And these kind of self-plagiarism also keeps happening, and we need to be very, very careful. Many times we also have to be careful not only in plagiarism but reviewing the comments. Now many times you may have heard of some draw or some pathetic stories where I have submitted to some journal, the reviewer gets the article, reviewer gives nasty comments and makes sure the article is rejected, and the reviewer himself or herself does the study and publishes before your study comes into the picture to have the responsibility as the first person to do that study. That kind of a misconduct also at times is being cited in various publications by the reviewer. So when you become a responsible reviewer along as a publication, you need to be very careful that you review on time. Are you expert in reviewing those things, and make sure you do not try to do cut copy paste of that material or publish a similar article on your name or do a similar study and publish faster than that publisher, because these things can happen to us also, and we need to be very careful. There are unfortunate incidences where reviewer has published before the actual study being done, and the reviewer had kept those things in a really so-called cold storage. And that's why as a reviewer, we also have to follow some kind of a publication ethics. And if you know about all those roles of the reviewer, it is going to be very, very helpful for us as a publication. We also have looked at the UGC guideline. We also need to look at the international guidelines which are there for publication. International guidelines are very, very strict. Unfortunately, that kind of a strict culture has not started too much in India, but the world is changing, and those guidelines of self-respect, integrity, the plagiarism are going to be implemented in India. In foreign countries, if somebody does this kind of a scientific misconduct or the publication misconduct, the whole career gets spoiled. But those things have not happened so much in India. But time has come where the international guidelines can be easily applicable through the universities, through the higher education in a better way. And that's why we need to be very, very careful with the citation, with the self-plagiarism, the amount of the plagiarism, the content, and it's not the mere percentage value which plays an important role, but also what content is copied and how that rephrasing is done. And as I was telling you, certain statement cannot be rephrased like the ethics committee approval is obtained. And also be careful when you are submitting something in the online free plagiarism software, because they may store the something and tomorrow it will look like a plagiarized content. And that's why we have to be very, very careful. Don't try to cut, copy, paste. Don't try to just slice your article into a multiple article unnecessarily without the scientific demand, and try to publish. All those things are publication misconduct, and we need to be very, very careful. In addition, the issue comes up post-publication. Now, once the post-publication happens, there are n number of journals who have different types of publication issues. Some are open journals, some are journals with some kind of a issue where the journal article is not available immediately for the people to read it, and you will see the charges are asked, or the institution have to subscribe. So open journals make the article easily available, and we need to be very, very careful for that. In this kind of open access journal, unfortunately, many predatory journals have entered which are actually not indexed, but they just ask mere money, and by submitting the money, immediately 1 day, 2 days on the fast publications are done. Unfortunately, it has given a wrong name to an open access journal. There are so many journals who are good in open access, also take a reasonable quality work and publish. So we need to be very, very careful in deciding my journal, what I am selecting is an open access or is a hybrid journal where both the kind of things are possible, or it is only a non-open access journal. And which kind of journals, as I was telling you before publication, if you try to work on that, or to some extent even during publication you can work on that, you can find out good journals where it can be published, so that the time constraint of easy publication does not come to us. Now, as I was telling you, open publications are also very, very critical, and we need to be very careful. It is not money oriented journal, because what research you have done, it is going in the waste bin and nobody is going to read it. And finally, publication is not the ultimate aim. People should cite your work. People should change guideline after your publication. So that is the final aspect. And if your article doesn't get citation, if your article doesn't get any important highlight in the policy making, then again the purpose of the research is lost. And the post publication, people writing to you on the article either openly or the through journals, respond them positively, except if some errors are happened, try to correct those errors, respond positively letter to editors, and to try to correct those errors, which are very, very important. Many times we feel angry when a reviewer or the post publication later on somebody writes a letter to editor and makes or write rapid responses where it criticizes the article. We have to be honest enough to accept those things, and that is going to be part of the life, and we have to be genuine and honest on this. Because after publication, if people do not cite my article, if the people or the policy makers do not use that my publication, then unfortunately that publication also becomes a very, very wasteful. You must have seen in COVID, during COVID time, the large number of publications have come. Some are really good, some are really bad, and some kind of unnecessary research waste is created. And many times we can avoid all those kind of a research waste where people have written just for the sake of writing, and overall it doesn't increase the scientific value or the scientific philosophy or the scientific policy or the scientific acumen or the scientific component of the whole thing. If it doesn't change, then it's going to be really very, very problem. I can understand when the publications are done with respect to promotion or some kind of a degree or some kind of a requirement, but that is a limit. We should not start just doing the same thing again and again. And we need to be very, very careful when we are teaching all those things to our postgraduate, all post faculties at the early stage. If we make them their life in easy publication, then naturally that is very probably a difficult thing which can be ruled out over a period of time, and people will always think about those poor quality things. So finally, at the post publication, I need to think about how it is going to change the policy, how is going to change the clinical management, how is going to change the SOP, how is going to be cited by many authors. In that way, my study has to be good. So again, if I have to get a good post publication value in the form of a citation, going into the very good impact factor journal, or going to a stage where it is quoted for patent or a policy making decision, all those things again come back to my before publication. And that's why all those aspects have to be planned with publication planning, with study planning during publication and the post publication stage. In general, I try to cover all the practical aspects which really people face, and we have to be very, very careful. At the end of the whole thing, my scientific study has to contribute in the scientific upliftment in the form of some kind of a benefit or the policy maker in general in the community. And that's why it has to start from the publication or before the study starts. It has to move through the during publication, and finally it goes on till the post publication in the form of a citation or some kind of a credit in the policy making. This is in general what I wanted to convey about the publication ethics. There were two questions which were asked in the pre-test and post-test. One was the oral and poster presentation. Please take ethics committee approval before that. And second is that with respect to similarities of plagiarism, we need to be very, very careful. Is not the mere 10% or so. Even the content, how it is written, what is cited, not cited, under inverted commas also play a larger role. Also, there are courses which UGC has prescribed, and now I'll share you which one of the courses which UGC talks about, research and public ethics course. It says that all PhD scholars should undergo this research and publication ethics course, which was informed to in December 2019, and it talks about what are the content of the research and publication course and how this course component and can be done, and how it can be activity-based learning with the help of a group discussion, the plagiarism software, and the Uncrude software which is provided by the UGC, which can be very nice. So this is in general about various basic important aspects which we can discuss about the publication. There are a lot of issues which may be difficult to cover, but simplicity, honesty, integrity, planning in at earlier stage as a team before the start study, remain as a team when you do the study, remain as a team after the study is over, remain as a team for the publication and the post publication phase, will only make life easy for all the authors as first author and corresponding author. All acknowledgements remains as an acknowledgement, and my publications, what I have done, goes into a policy making or some kind of a benefit, then only is going to be very, very helpful. Thank you very much. With this short introduction, I want to leave publication ethics for other people to think over, and probably years are going to change. This is going to be a dynamic science where things will keep on getting added and added and added, and probably we have to evolve with the science, And I cannot say ignorance is bliss, because if I'm ignorant, I'll tomorrow land up in either in my own institution or a legal court or somewhere, and my whole name will be scratched. And one of my teachers used to say, I'll say with that last statement, building your name and fame takes years and years together, but scratching your name takes few seconds, and you don't have to worry. Somebody is also already willing to scratch your name. So please be careful, and publication is one of the things where the scratching of the name can be easily done rather than the building of the name. Thank you very much. And thank you all of you for the invitation and really patient hearing to all of you who are there.
Thank you very much, sir, for that enthusiastic and elaborate lecture from a single slide. And we are very happy that we have listened to so many aspects of publication ethics, and some things are really new to us, which we have come across. Thank you for that elaborate lecture. Sir, are you willing to take some questions from the chat box? Sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 100%. If I'm able to answer, I'll say yes. If I don't know, I'll say no. No issues. There is a first question in the chat box. What is the action research? Does it require ethics clearance for publication?
Yes, sir.
There are n number of terminologies have come in research. If we start knowing all this terminology, it is well and good. But even if I don't know terminology, it doesn't matter. For me, anything which is done under the banner of research has to have ethics committee approval. It cannot go without ethics committee approval. Now, many times we collect so many feedback forms from the student. That is not a research. It is an administrative component when we do collect the feedback form. But if it has to go as kind of a publication or has to go as a scholarship, then at that point of time, the ethical clearance or ethical committee approval has to be obtained. No research can be done with the ethics without ethics committee approval, and it will not be accepted for publication. Even nowadays, the journals have come which ask the ethics committee approval even for case reports. There are instances, and we need to decide and how the case report also is a part of the study or the research and needs ethics committee approval. So I don't think so anything can go without ethics committee approval whenever something is called as under the banner of research. If it is not a research, if it is an administrative component which is done under some authority at the institution, naturally the ethics committee approval is not required. But whenever it goes for publication, it has to have ethics clearance. I will not go into different terminology on action research and non-action research and what are different kind of research, because it will again take 1 more hour, and I don't think so any person will be willing to listen to me for 1 more hour. There are n number of terminologies. We will not revolve ourselves with the terminologies and those technical aspects. For me to understand, if it's a research, it has to be having ethics committee approval. Can you explain COPE guidelines? Yes, please tell me. Yes, sir.
There is one more question in the chat box which says how to identify predatory journals.
Okay. Now, before that, there's one more question on COPE guidelines. Now, what I will do is, I'll be very happy if people can use simple Google search and write COPE, and it will give the detailed guidelines. Those guidelines run in pages and pages. It basically summarizes the good ethical practices which needs to be done in the publication, in the research ethics, and so many aspects. And that's why I request people to just go through those guidelines, because it's very difficult to summarize in a very small aspect. But one of the important things, and many of our guidelines at Indian level, at international level, have come from these COPE guidelines, as well as the guidelines which are released by international editor group, as well as the Indian editor group. What are the predatory journals? Now, how to identify a predatory journal is a very, very tricky question. Now, first, how I identify? I have got up at midnight, 2 o'clock, and probably maybe at 5 o'clock, and I suddenly see an email which says that within 1 hour, within 1 day, within 1 month, we can publish your article. It's the easiest way to find out a predatory or a fake journal. Usually, great journals do not encourage you to send your articles, though there are many great journals who send it. But these kind of ways by which they want the article in a larger number, probably it is going to be more towards the fake article. Though there are many good journals, I am not denying who will send you the emails for the good work you have already published somewhere else. Second easy way, you click on the link of that article. That link, that journal link will be very, very pathetic. It will not give you a very clear idea. And by looking at the journal website link, you may not be really very, very impressed. Third thing to identify is, are they indexed in PubMed, PubMed Central, Scopus, or Web of Sciences? But unfortunately, nowadays, many of the predatory journals have unfortunately entered in those databases, And I don't know how many of you are aware, I think 2 years back or 1 year back, at one go, Scopus came out and thrown almost 5 to 10,000 journals out of their databases because they realized it's a predatory journal. That is the second way, probably, where the journal looks, journal email, journal submission, and how fast they publish. If you also look at the earlier article published and their quality, it will be able to tell you predatory journal. And finally, if you look at the journal title, it says International Journal of something. 99.9% is fake journal or a predatory journal, or a journal which is very, very catchy but doesn't sound good to you, or you feel that probably if I am the journal editor, I will not write the name like this. Probably it is a fake journal. This is all intuition, and the intuition happens in all proposal. Marriage proposal is also like that. You go with the intuition that things are not predatory, everything is happening nicely, but only post-marriage we realize this. But here, in case of predatory journal, you can be very, very careful. If something you feel fishy about it, please do not publish unless there are some unfortunate limitations which are making you publish in those predatory journal. We should avoid, because we also need to understand people are going to cite only if it's not in bad journal. People are going to admire you. Your CV is going to be very, very important tomorrow when you apply for the job, and your many publications coming in the predatory journal will spoil your name. Even if people have a 400 publication, may not able to give you a good job. A person, especially at the postgraduate and younger level applied, if lot many are the predatory journal. And a person who is sitting at the interview post 100% knows what are the predatory journal, because at some point of time, that person over climbing that ladder has also understood and found out what are the predatory journal through postgraduates or through their faculties or their undergraduates. So it's not very easy to identify all predatory journal, but probably at times some kind of illusions or some feeling may able to help you predatory journal. But even if it's a predatory journal, if it's in a Scopus index and PubMed, probably you have some benefit of your article getting indexed. Many times it may not be possible all articles to go in Lancet or NEJM or BMJ or American Journal of Nephrology or American Journal of Cardiology. It may not be possible. And we have to start with a smaller journal. Probably we will be lucky enough if we do not enter in those predatory journal. Look at the Scopus, Web of Sciences and PubMed indexing. See how much time they take publication, and the best judge is to read the current issue of that journal to find out what is the quality of the articles. If you feel that the quality of the articles are really good, then most likely it will not be a predatory if it's indexed in those great databases. These are only the ways, but even knowing all the ways, I know how to identify a good friend, but still I can land up with a bad friend. But that is the philosophy of the life. We cannot work beyond than those intuitions. We can make mistakes in spite of our experience, in spite of mistakes. We drive at a lot of time, but accidents are going to happen. So I don't think so. By writing so many publications, every time we can identify predatory journal. Accident can happen, but that accident should not be disastrous for our career. That we need to be very, very careful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
I have one question. Yes, before that, one observation, Dr. Pankaj Shah. I heard about you quite a lot, and this is the second talk which I am hearing. I should say that your students are very lucky to have you as a faculty.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your compliment. Thank you.
And second thing is, my question is, for example, different plagiarism tools are there. Recently, I have submitted one particular article, and I have taken special care to see that everything is my own word, and I have verified with Urkun, and it gives only 4% plagiarism. And when I have sent to that international journal, it gives a much higher similarity. How do you take care of this problem?
Sir, actually, one of the best software which is available is Authenticate, but unfortunately, Authenticate is very, very costly. And many of the good journals and the famous and reputed journals use Authenticate. But at our level, it is very, very difficult to judge with Authenticate, and that's why we use whatever best software available to us. Now, accepting that it is our own words, but as I told you, certain our own words are going to be repeated as a common English by the Indian people. The ethics committee approval is obtained. Has to be written in that fashion. I don't know which are the different ways I can write that statement. Now, solution to this problem is too tricky in the sense that if the journal is willing to reconsider that, probably you have to again relook to it and how you rephrase those statements and come out of the plagiarism, and probably you can identify and find out to generate a complete report and send it to you. And also you can ask that journal which kind of software they have taken and where the similarity content is there, so that you can find out where it is the similarity is there. Unless I know the source of the software and what are the similarities which is found, just mere percentage may not benefit, because the similarity in methodology may or may be possible at a higher level, because the methods are going to be repeated in the same way. Many times, unfortunately, this happens with the Indian investigators when they judge the plagiarism percentage with whatever best software available in India, but Authenticate or other kind of softwares give a higher aspects, and journals are not willing to review itself. They immediately reject it, saying that your percentage is very high. In such scenarios, unfortunately, we have a bad luck. And probably some of the central institutions in India, which are big institutions, have Authenticate software, and probably you can take somebody's help to find out. But only way when it is already done in your case, sir, probably the best thing is you can ask the editorial board to give you the actual report along with the source where it is appears to be similar, and you can argue, you can go for the discussion with the editorial board and the reviewers to believe that those are plagiarism or not a plagiarism. Just by merely getting into percentage, we should not get involved and believe that it is a plagiarized content. Even if it's a plagiarized content. Now I'll give you another example. I'm writing an SOP for ethics committee. What should be my plagiarism content in SOP of ethics committee? If I'm not quoted otherwise, it should be almost 100%, or it should be almost 80%, because nothing can come from my own words. It has to be based on the guidelines which are written by internationally, which is written by ICMR, which has come from the Central Licensing Authority. So we need to really see what is the actual plagiarized content. Just by writing in a similar fashion doesn't mean is a plagiarized, and mere percentage doesn't call is a cheating or the plagiarism. And that's why by asking the report and looking at the original source, we can come to some kind of a conclusion, is really plagiarized or not plagiarized. And if you believe you have written everything in your own words, then probably your twin has written with a similar mind that article. That is the only possibility. Otherwise, it is not possible. Two people write in the same similar fashion, all the contents and so much of percentage will be there. So looking at the source content and looking at each and every line, each and every color-coded word there has to be discussed with the editorial board to prove that it is my own word and it is not the plagiarized content. I think that's the only
In fact,
I can look at.
In fact, I'll tell you whatever the problem is. In fact, the title of my article was Cybersecurity in Nuclear Reactor Instrumentation and Control. That nuclear reactor instrumentation and control is a very generic word which we use very often. He said that the 5-word similarity is there in many places. I mean,
No, sir, that's why I'm saying is not mere percentage term or 5 terms, or even if you read the guidelines, it talks about 3 terms, 5 terms, 8 terms coming together. Has to be. We have to argue at each and every line, talking to the editor or the reviewer that this is not a plagiarized content, but it's a natural, general way of writing those statements. But finally, what happens? Finally, if I have to do anything implementation in my house, my wife has to agree. Otherwise, I cannot implement anything. Same way, finally, I have to convince my reviewer and editorial board. If they get convinced, article is published, and I have to take a risk of not publishing. So depending on what risk I am carrying, I have to decide to try to convince as far as possible. And finally, at the end, we should do what they want so that it gets published. Or say, my honesty and integrity is most important. Keep happy your journal with you. I'll keep my article with me and be happy at that. And you are the loser and not I am the loser. So it all depends on what kind of level we are at that point of discussion, sir. I'm sorry, I'm giving you a very funny and unkindful example, but that's the only way of life which can help us in thinking really the necessity, the risk, what we are carrying when such kind of thing. Ideally, editorial board and reviewer has to understand. But unless the editorial board and reviewer comes to that level of thinking, I don't think so anything can change. And finally, this editorial and reviewer board are all of us. And if all of us collectively discuss on a larger scale, wisdom will prevail, and that wisdom will 100% help us to improve, may not be for my article, but 100% for future generation of articles. And I will tell you one more thing which commonly happens, which I heard of, no direct experience. Many of these reviewers whose names are there in the reviewer board may not have time to review. So what happens when an editorial board sends a reviewer to a great man? That great man unfortunately doesn't have a time. He gives it to his faculty. His faculty doesn't have a time. He gives to his PG, and that postgraduate gives to CRRI, and CRRI gives to an undergraduate student, and undergraduate reviews the article and finally signed by that big man. So we need to be very, very careful also who has reviewed. With due respect, many times these things also happen. And that's why everything has to be taken with a pinch of salt. Politely we reply to the editorial board and reviewer so that finally the editorial board and reviewer is convinced and my article gets published. That is the ultimate aim. Then only it will change the policy and the community perception and the citation. I think that's the only way I can look at it, sir. But it's case to
Thank you,
case,
sir.
we have to solve problem. Just to again carry on further, everybody has a spouse and every spouse has a different problem. A generalized solution is not possible. Everybody has to live in that way and everybody has to take out their own solution how to handle their spouse. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank-
In fact, it's nice that you have mentioned about very senior person to undergraduate. In fact, I have gone through all those levels, so I understand and appreciate your statement.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. That was an
Thank you,
elaborate lecture, and we got some practical tips how to select the predatory journal also.
Just I can
Last-
take one more thing. There is one more question. 13 software is better than input. All softwares are good. Among the best is Authenticate. That is what is world over recognized. All other softwares are similar. Okay, so I don't think so. We have to run behind the software. The intelligence mind application on that percentage and the similarity is more important than the software. Even if the software doesn't give. But if I know I have done copied, then I should be very careful. So please don't run like a software in my previous session. Don't run behind statistics. Same way I'll say in publication for plagiarism, don't run behind whichever is the best software available in the market. Whichever is available best with you, please use that. And if you are 100% sure you are yourself writing, then I think no integrity can question you when you yourself had decided that what you have written. So don't run behind multiple softwares and create more stress. Rather spend that time in improving the quality of the study before publication, during publication, and after publication. Sorry to interrupt you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the nice tips on selecting the predatory journal. And last week I got an email stating you'll have a 1+1 offer from a journal. If you publish one journal, I will give one free for you. So thank you very much, sir. And
one more thing for predatory journalists, I'm only short of starting my own printing press. That is only remaining to call it as a predatory. Other things all are available in the market. So if somebody has started
Yes, we
printing
need
press,
the
it's a predatory.
Sir, with the digital technology boom, we don't even need that, sir. We just need somebody who can make a nice PDF. Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
so if there are no further queries to sir, we'll